Genesis 16, verse 1. Now Sarai, Abraham's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name is Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid, it may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarai. You know, it's interesting. You can be very, very hard on Abraham here. I'm not disciplined enough to call him Abraham. His name doesn't get changed for another chapter, but just bear with me on that. In any case, you can be hard on him, except that was the standard practice in that culture. That if a woman is barren, she could have a surrogate wife bear the child. That was done. But see, God had been very specific before, back in chapter 15, that she would have issue. Now she's going to be 90 before she has a child. Can you imagine that? We can, I think, be sympathetic to Abraham's skepticism here. This is one of the lessons we're going to get out of the Torah, is that when we start trying to help God, we usually mess things up. Abraham's motivations were probably very sound. God had promised him an heir, and this is the way you got heirs in those days. If your wife didn't bear, you got a surrogate, and that would seem very straightforward. And so the child born of that union would be the wife's first child in their eyes. We're going to discover a very strange thing when we get to chapter 22, because by then Abraham will have Ishmael and Isaac, about 13 years apart, and God speaks to Abraham, take your only son. When you read that, you may stumble. Wait a minute, he had two sons. Not as far as God is concerned. Not as far as his promise is concerned. Not as far as God's plans are concerned. And we'll talk about that as it goes. But let's recognize that trying to help God is dangerous stuff, because God knows what he's doing. And there's a myth that floats around that God helps those who help themselves. That's not true. God helps those who come to an end of themselves. And that's usually what he's looking for. You'll discover as you study your Bible, it's often when someone comes to the end of their rope that God can finally start to use him. I taught Bible studies for more than almost 2 or 3 decades, and they had wide followings, and you could look at that and say, wow, wasn't that neat? And God couldn't really use me until I came to the end of my rope and went through a valley where I was virtually suicidal. And it's from that point on that I finally started listening, at least a little bit. Now, I'll tell you, not always, but a little bit, right? But anyway.